Howl-O-Scream. This is promoted as an award-winning Halloween event, but still doesn't seem to get the praise that Fright Fest does at Six Flags. So, what was my experience with this event? And is it really worth trying to go to? Find out in this review. For starters, Halloween events and haunted houses are not necessarily my thing, but I am a big fan of amusement parks and SeaWorld San Antonio, so I figured, since it is included free with my season pass, I should make an effort to experience this event. So this review takes the perspective of one who is a bit hesitant about some of the scary stuff. For better content from content creators who can appreciate the horror aspects more, I'd suggest checking out Boone Times Two and Tidal Thrills, as both should have up-to-date content on the Halloween events in San Antonio each year. SeaWorld San Antonio is, at its heart, a family park. And the facelift of the kids area in the Rescue Junior earlier this year was just another reminder of that. Before the sun sets, there are some family fun activities that include trick-or-treat stops for the kids. SeaWorld has been hesitant to change their main shows or do seasonal overlays, so Orca Encounter, Ocean Discovery, Fact Flippers and Fun, and Imagine Ocean should all remain the same. They do have a few themed areas with a pirates area that has some cool things, including singing bones and occasional pirate actors, but could be done with just a slightly better touch. The Dia de los Muertos is in the area normally done to promote Hispanic culture for seasonal events, but it still lacks a lot of theming that it could have, especially as this area should just do a bit more to celebrate the overall Hispanic heritage of San Antonio. For 2025, Rescue Junior had Baby Shark in Ping Fong's Fantastic Adventure as the dance party show for the fall. This did also replace a parade, such as the Ocean Motion Parade that SeaWorld had over the summer, but this show was packed, though likely it should have just been in a bigger arena, as all the kids wanted to see Baby Shark. And I really don't blame them. I kind of wanted to see Baby Shark too. Though Baby Shark really doesn't have anything to do with Halloween. They also have a Spookley the Square Pumpkin Maze. This was pretty basic, with signs just reminding kids that bullying is wrong, and you can't even get your picture with Spookley at certain times throughout the day. P6 Farms has a similar Spookley maze that goes through the story with a full corn maze, though it doesn't have the actual pictures with Spookley. But this is just a simple fall attraction for the youngest of guests. Of note, for those visiting earlier in the Halloween calendar, Aquatica has a really long season, routinely being open until Columbus Day, so you can pair a day at Aquatica with a night at Howl-O-Scream, if you'd like. Then, around 7 p.m. as the sun starts going down, the paths around the lake transform into Howl-O-Scream. The front of the park around Rescue Junior is the only area not a scare zone. And then the scare zones encircle the lake, which does help create a nice feeling of stepping into the horrors and dark stuff. With large crowds and a lot of guests and families did stay to experience at least a little bit of Howl-O-Scream. Even with a lot of scare actors in the various scare zones, you're likely not going to be scared. I feel like paying for the Nobu necklaces is likely a scam, as you just don't need to spend your money on something like that. And if you are really going to be that scared anyways, just probably stay away. But most interactions with the actors should be kinda pleasant, with them likely scaring maybe somebody beside you instead of you yourself. And some of what they do I can find amusing and humorous. Some areas, like the Till Death Do Us party, are set up as just a straight dance party, so even young kids seem to be able to enjoy this section a lot. SeaWorld San Antonio includes all their haunts for free with admission. This is slightly confusing as SeaWorld Orlando and other parks in the chain have Howl-O-Scream as a separate ticket upcharge. So even when I went to SeaWorld Orlando during Howl-O-Scream, I didn't bother going as it was an additional $60 for the evening ticket. The downside to this is that lines will be longer. With about an hour for each haunted house is probably what you can expect. You can buy a Fear Pass, which is essentially a quick queue. Though those lines still seem to be about the 10 to 20 minute wait, just kinda depending on crowds, at least at the start. So not instance, but still shorter, and they did take one party from the standby line and one from the Fear Pass line, just like they do for a quick queue. Lines died down the last hour, and maybe the last 2 hours for the Fear Pass, and I was able to do 5 out of the 6 haunted houses while still seeing both shows. Though I did skip one line with my one-time, one-attraction Fear Pass for being a Season Pass member. Queues for the haunted houses opened at 6:30, with the haunts opening at 7 p.m., so you may want to start queuing early if that matters. Atlantis the Cursed Chasm will open later as they close the coaster before opening the queue line, and do open this at 8 p.m. on non-Saturday evenings. This whole process was not clearly explained as families kept trying to ride the coaster, and clear signage for this should be provided to make this transition a lot smoother. The app also does have clear opening times for the haunts if there's any confusion. If doing all the attractions in one night is a priority, I'd suggest buying a Fear Pass. But if you have multiple nights to visit, and trying just a couple haunts per visit is going to be okay, then you should be fine without buying one. It just kinda depends on your goals. This also is just kind of my average impression. Visiting the first couple weekends should let you have lesser lines, whereas closer to Halloween, the lines likely are going to be packed. For comparison, on my visit, the parking lot for Fiesta, Texas was almost full when I left there about 5 p.m. to come over to Howl-O-Scream. Though SeaWorld still did have VIP parking that I get with my Platinum Pass when I got there. SeaWorld had 2 Halloween shows. They also again had those 2 scare zones that are essentially shows labeled party zones by SeaWorld. The aforementioned Till Death Do We Party, which has a band that plays 30-minute sets, the first starting at 7 p.m. to kick off Howl-O-Scream. Sindustry District also has a stage and performers, though this seemed a bit less of a show and more just kind of atmosphere performances that you could watch, though it does appear this area had a more formalized show in the past. Monster Stomp is a rhythm-based show that is connected with Jack the Ripper, and is large and theatrical in its presentation, reminding me some of the Christmas show A Wondrous Night that is also in this same theater. This focuses on various rhythmic beating in the vein of Stomp, which seemed to be impressive as a crowd pleaser, even for families with younger kids. I was pretty tired by the time this show rolled around, so the rhythmic beating made me a bit sleepy rather than this show enjoyable. But this will appeal to a large amount of people, and the arena was packed for the 7:45 show, as families will want to experience it before leaving for the day. This was one of the few shows at SeaWorld where I really didn't get a good seat, so you might want to consider arriving especially early if sitting up close matters. Siren Song was a unique stage next to the water that was equally packed as everyone crowded around to watch. This show combines song and dance in a slightly creepy monster way, so it fits in nicely with the overall haunt feeling of Howl-O-Scream. As for the individual scare zones, between Nightmare Midway, Colleen's Dollhouse, and Water's Edge, there are a fair amount of monsters roaming around, and the feel of each area is nice, though there is some space between areas, at times. With large crowds, especially around the shows to start the event, you likely won't get scared too much in these, but you could always have a good scare if one of these monsters sneaks up on you. Blackwater Bayou was the only one that was a bit creepy with the way the lights and sounds worked, so just know that if you start off your loop over by the Steel Eel, this is the scariest of the scare zones. It was nice walking around and soaking in the overall atmosphere, and there's a decent amount of families with young kids, especially to start the evening. As for the haunts, none left me too scared as I just didn't really get any good jump scares inside of them, which, given my preferences, is actually a pretty good thing, as I'm not looking to come running out of these scared out of my mind. There were some screams and some jump scares, most notably in Disassembly Line, though I missed these by going first in my group. You will walk through in a group of about 8-ish people, so even if visiting by yourself, you won't have to feel alone walking through the haunts. And if you have a group, it would likely be even more fun seeing everyone's different reactions. If you're like me, and you're a bit hesitant or scared to do the haunts, they should hopefully be fun, and I encourage you to try them, or at least try one. I started off with Atlantis, as they were pretty enjoyable for what they were. My favorite two haunts were the tamer haunts, as they just had a bit more theming that was fun inside. Atlantis the Cursed Chasm is a great complement to the family water coaster, and the level of theming inside is what I wish the queue line for the coaster was like. So it was great seeing, while not having too many monsters to really scare you. Milton Creek Manor was my favorite, as it really shows how the scare actors can do a bit more acting with the various areas set up like a hotel, and workers that can interact with you. I did miss Zombie Horde, as I didn't realize where its location was when I was in that area, and then ran out of time to go back across the entire park to experience it. Bunny Bradley's ice cream shop has about a 20+ minute wait once you get inside of the building, so its line is pretty deceptive in this regard. The overall haunt is a bit short, but it does smell like ice cream in there, which is a cool perk. And there are a few cool monsters inside as well. Disassembly Line seemed to be considered the scariest at the park, and it does have a lot of fake appendages hanging around, so if that creeps you out. Plus it had probably the most jump scares out of any of the haunts, but I did avoid most of these by being first in my group. Its line also died way down towards the end of the night, so you can probably get a quick lap on it late in the evening if you'd like. The swamp was a fairly long haunt, and I know it's fake, but seeing an alligator just sitting there did get me a little bit. The lights and music also really make this attraction, as you feel like you're navigating through a haunted swamp. The haunts were enjoyable, even if you had to fight the lines at times, and made for a nice overall experience. Overall, how good is Howl-O-Scream? I enjoyed this event, as the scare zones helped set the mood for the evening, the shows gave something less scary to focus on, and the haunted houses showed interesting places with fun interactions that weren't too scary, at least for me. As someone not inclined to want or need to visit haunted houses, I had an overall fun time, and I will enjoy going back in future years if I can. I went to Fright Fest at Six Flags Over Texas last year, but I did not do the haunted houses, and there was very little additional theming or scare actors along the pathways. So just being able to soak in the Halloween vibe while feeling free to experience the haunts is a very nice touch of Howl-O-Scream. Fiesta Texas Next Door has good scare zones and likely solid haunted houses, though I did not have time to experience them on my San Antonio visit. Their family shows during the day, though, were incredible. How it ranks in comparison to other Halloween events, I really can't say. But this was a fun theme park event that I'd encourage people to visit, even if, like me, Halloween stuff isn't exactly your thing. What has your experience at Howl-O-Scream been? Do you feel it's an enjoyable event? Let me know, and as always, Capcom Kraut.